Yes, Untold Stories, Episode 2, with man like Captain Rambo.
Yeah, man, how are you, bro?
Good, bruv, what are you saying?
Yeah, man, I'm safe, man.
Yeah, man, this is like Untold Stories, man. I've done like an episode before. This is Episode 2. So, Rambo, what's your story?
Well, boy, my story is, yeah, man, I grew up in the 80s. I've seen a lot of, back in the 80s when I was growing up, there was a lot of racism, a lot of discrimination, you know, a lot of stuff like the BNP and also like and all of the fascist movements. What was going on in the early 80s, me growing up within the West Indian Jamaican culture, we kind of kept it together. You know what I mean? We always went to school together, like with me and my friends. Like our parents used to like always keep us like with more than 3 friends, you know. Always say look after each other, and that's how I type of growing up. Like my parents, they were good people, you know. They kind of did a lot for the community, like done youth work and stuff. Me growing up, seeing my parents do the youth work, being like a kind of people for the community and the type of people for the people type, you know, it kind of made me want to be like them, you know. And growing up, I got the name Rambo because my father was a part of the sound system and everything, and his name was Rambo because he used to do the security, hold the doors, like manage the sound, be up like, you know, like one with the owner. The owner used to like put the sound in my father's care. So my father was like Rambo, and because I was always with my dad, you know, when they say, yeah, he's with that type of youth who always likes his father, always wants to be around his dad. I grew up around the sound system cultures. Yeah, my father's sound was Taurus. You know what I mean? Cotson, I Spy, Fat Man, Tubbies, Unity, Java Nuclear, many different sounds. I kind of grew up amongst because my father used to go all over South, Brixton, Clapham Junction, Battersea, you know, Wandsworth Road, you know, places like Kennington, Peckham, Lewisham, Deptford, New Cross, many different sounds like Jack Shaka and many other Rasta sounds what really was around back then, like Channel One, you know what I mean? You had many different sounds what contribute to many of us as a youth growing up in the 80s. And like because my parents were like youth workers and stuff, they could get the halls, and most of the sound systems used to play either in a blues dance, meaning in a house party or in a hall, you know. And back then, as I said, you know, when is growing up in that type of environment, you know, I kind of explore myself and explore the roles at the same time. You know what I mean? I started to be affiliated with many different gangs. Like, I was not really restricted to like one gang. I was more of a alliance. I was more of a neutral person who was able to go anywhere in the South because what my parents and my father contributed through the sound system and the youth work and going to play centres and stuff made me, or going on many different youth schemes made me allowed to go to many different parts of South London, then all over London, because as I was growing up and the 90s was approaching, I was hitting into my teenager life, you know. I'm starting to become, where you say, an adolescent, teenager, a young man, where they say, a big man in a young body. You always start to, you know, be involved in the gang culture. I was very kind of known. Like my parents was always like because they had good contact, I was into martial arts. I was more into boxing, and I was quite very good at it, to tell you the truth. And I could have been something if I kept to it, if I was really onto it. But as the 90s was approaching, drum and bass came, the music changed, hip hop changed. It was all gangster from like 85, like the hip hop culture, the dancehall culture was all a part of my culture. I remember the changes and all of that. So what makes me become what I am now is through the experiences I went through. But catching up, going into the 90s era, it was like drum and bass, you know, jungle music, going to places like Linford Studio, Rose, Astoria, you know, Ilford Island, you know, Rose again, you know, Telepathy, Club UN, Chelsea Adrenaline Village, you know, when it was like
Well
drum
dance,
and bass,
well dance.
Bagley's, roll dance in Ashford, Kent. We used to travel, man. Back in the 90s, we were youths, still going to school, some of us. Some of us were actually leaving school, but finding themselves in bare different areas, bare different manners, meeting different gangs. Like, Tottenham, man, already knew the 28s from back in the fucking 80s. It was like South man, North man, East man, West man was linking up for me in the 80s, bruv. All of certain things was talking about today is a bit of a delusion, you know what I mean? But growing up, seeing and being able to travel through much different communities, going far as Birmingham, Huddersfield, right up to Manchester, Leeds, you know what I mean? Going all west towards Bristol, all sorts of places, following the sound system, the drum and bass culture throughout the 80s and 90s. That was my era as a young man growing up, going into my adult life. But to make everybody really understand, I was also a part of the liberation and the struggles, meaning my parents and everybody was fighting for their rights. That, you know, really it was my grandparents. I always salute my grandfather. My grandfather came over here in the Windrush and ended up in Toolsby, found his way to South London, Brixton, where they used to get a kind of little memo where you could stay in various different places of London, you know. Some people used to end up living in Ladbroke Grove, West London, then living in South or living in North West, you know. You got places where back then it was different. They call it immigrants or migrations took place, where back in the 50s and 60s when my grandfather came, they were fighting for their liberation and through their struggles, you know, educating himself, resisting the system. You know, by the time my father came about, growing up, finding himself, he found himself in the Rasta culture and everything else, you know, and a part of those liberational struggles what I kind of inherited, where I kind of love to know about my great heroes, my ancestors, and various different history and facts what was running through myself as being a black person, of course. But just to further up to make you understand that I started to be aware, started to get conscious in my teenage era, like 15, 16. I grew up in Tooting, where it was very multicultural. You know, most of my primary school friends were all Muslims, Africans, Jamaicans, white, all sorts of things, you know, and I kept their contact, like, mostly my teenage life. Most of my gang affiliated members where we was always from school and everything. We all came from the same area. We all knew the same people basically. We could always intermingle through different parts of the communities through south, north, east, west. Our parents were doing it through the sound system. We were doing it through the drum and bass. You know what I mean? Many of my brethren became MCs and DJs within the drum and bass industry. Even became very successful in it. You know, many artists through the music industry. I do know them through other the drum and bass, grime, ragga, whatever type of music what is really around our society. I kind of know the artists one way or the other and met them and, you know, did a lot of, you know, like spoke to them, you know, friends that I met a lot of good people and speeding it up that, you know, heading further, growing up, I became more aware of my culture, more aware of what I'm about, and in that I was more interested in the knowledge, learning about myself, finding myself. You know what I mean? You know, been involved in various different religious ideologies and ways of life. You know what I mean? And even actually took part finding a way, finding identity. You know, all in my young, say, late teens, early 20s. You know, I've been involved in relationships, hold them down. You know, had family, became a man, took on responsibilities, and being in my 20s, I was more aware of many different organisations and different groups within the black community or within the community. I was growing up from a young age. I was more inspired into the Black Panther Party, where most of the Black Panther members were like more my inspiration, my idols.
So how did you like find the Black Panthers in London
Well,
at that age? What was it, 80s, late 80s?
yeah, basically the Black Panther movement was in the actual 80s anyway. Like I should say 70s, 80s, because the Black Panther, it was a UK Black Panther Party where you have Darkest Howe and many other different members who was a part of it back then, who used to actually do the protesters, the march, fight against fascism, racism, fight against fight for equality, you know, better housing, better accommodation, better lifestyle, you know, because back then in their struggles it was a bit harder for the black and Afro-Caribbean cultures here in England. It was very hard, so a lot of people unified, took on many inspirations throughout the world. You know what I mean? Many of us as Jamaicans, we were really more closer to Cuba at the time of the struggles and liberation of Cuba. So a lot of the West Indian countries always had a liberational force or a mentality of really bettering themselves, regardless of mentality or spirituality. They had a vision, they had a drive, they had a determination to actually fight for the liberations and the struggles. So myself, I was more reflected directly and inspired by many different great people within the black African community, and people likely to say, without trying to single in and everything, we all are African, but we was all placed different areas. But as people know that the Black Panthers were like coming from the streets of LA, where they were actually fighting for their struggles and liberation, what did reflect worldwide, where England picked it up at a time in the 70s, where the 60s generation, or I should say the children of the Windrush generation themselves, like the ones what came over here, their children, that generation was the generation what was basically born in the 60s, from 65 of Malcolm X and many other black pioneers who was fighting the struggle and educating the mass through different ways of ideology and spirituality. All of those people was a part of that was a part of that fighting for that struggle. What really I inherited, because it was my own family was a part of many of that over here, and they took on that world struggle basically. But it's where it is where we were conditioned and how we lived over here we wasn't really accepted from when we got here. We was promised to come here to have a better life, to really help build Britain, and when we came over here, the story goes that we faced a lot of reverse of what they promised. I mean, maybe the government's promised it, but the people or the residents of Britain did not accept foreigners from the Caribbean islands and many other people to come over here, because when I was growing up, there was a lot of racist gangs, parties, you had a lot of things called packet bashing and a lot of other stuff used to carry on within London of extreme racism that Asians kind of kept themselves to themselves, but even them keeping themselves to themselves, they was not protected by the British government. But continuing from that, getting back on the point about me growing up, that's what I kind of inherited. So my background, I started to get involved with many youth projects, many youth schemes within my community, and kind of help the youths to find themselves. So back in my 20s, I started to become more really active, or become a young activist, somebody who's on action, who's always want to do something for the community and for the people. And basically like that, I kind of read many books from George Jackson, Stokely Carmichael's Kumaturi, many of the Black Power authors who I come across, where I actually got their books read, studied, learning about myself, learning about my people, my culture and everything. Going forward with that, I started to actually become a member of the Black Panthers and actually, learnt, studied and worked my way up through the ranks and actually become captain, where really it's kind of, it's that you're the head of the team, you're in charge of your team, basically.
Well, where was their base?
Well, I made a lot of contact with many of the Panthers from the United States, and many of us over here had bases where we had links. We had HQs in South London, like Brixton, and they had a base in North London, West London. They had many different bases, many different fractions of the Black Panther Party, what was in the UK. Well, a lot of people remember Black Panther it was a symbolic meaning, What is a panther, you really want to ask yourselves. And the panther is described as an animal where it doesn't hunt in packs. It's more of a cat what does not really, you would not, they say it's one of the rarest cats you could ever have on camera or on footage. They're so rare of taking shots, they're not really of the limelight, but if you back them into the corner, they will strike. And when they strike, they will wipe their enemies out, because the instincts of a Black Panther is really to protect itself. It's a hunter, but it's not an animal where it's like a troublemaker, where it's a territorial hard thing. It's more of a South American Amazon cat, what is very adapted to the surroundings of itself, meaning that you can't really spot it, to tell you the truth. It doesn't really it kind of pokes itself out and puts itself back in, but it's a protective animal. It's like the same family of a leopard, where if you look what a leopard does, a leopard is one very strong, protective hunter, where a lot of the African tribes used to have a leopard skin as a mark of honor or a mark of a warrior type cat. So through different cultures is where people want to know what a Black Panther is what we are as people. Some of us are a bit more humble, but when they want to be, they're very fierce and very protective of its own and of its kind, and doesn't like to be backed in the corner as much. So that's what a Black Panther is. And that was the actual philosophy of the Black Panther Party back when Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seals in 1967 of October, Black History Month, where they actually say we want to protect our community in Oakland. And that was the same reflection of every other black community around the world, where a group of young men and women wanted to protect their community. Like in this day and time, many people want to protect their community. You've got different organisations, different groups what reflect on protecting and serving their community, offering their services to the people who most probably be unfortunate, less unfortunate than others, want to actually do things. And that's what brought me into mostly closer into the year 2000 up to 2010, where as I got older I did more and more work within my community, and I am known for it now in present time of actually continuing and continuing the fight, the struggles, helping, you know what I mean, helping the people, assisting and serving the community, like, you know. And
then going back to the Panthers and that, so then how was that? Like,
yeah, well, when
you
I
had to join or
when I became a Black Panther, I joined up. I had already linked with many different Panthers from over here, where they had the connections over there, and vice versa. We had many different brothers and sisters who's come over here in many of our years over here and assisted, met us, and we all like, you know, me joining the Black Panther is more like, yeah, I signed to it and actually become it, you know, got my uniform, got my badges, actually got my ranking, got my title as captain. But remember, as I was trying to explain earlier, it really came from when my father inherited from when we was involved, when my father inherited when he was involved in the sound business, and back in the early 80s, as you know, that when First Blood come out, he was described as a one-man warrior, rough person that when he's doing his thing, he does his thing, now all out, you know. And that was a thing where many of us as youth had many nicknames where we just inherited it, where people name you it. You know what I mean? I've been involved in myself. When I was a young kid, I was very active. I wanted to be a soldier anyway, so I kind of joined the Army Cadets from when I was like 12. And me and my schoolmates used to go to the Army Cadets, go hunting, go camping, go on many drills, do many different stuff within the Army Cadets. So really, my name was Rambo because I was really always like a soldier type person. Like, I could always look after myself and look after others. You know what I mean? And Rambo is a thing where I'm known for doing security and everything. So it's the kind of thing where you always have a nickname where people just call you and stuff.
Then where did so what? You became a captain?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Yes.
How does that work and all that?
Well, you go through your you have to go through your you go through your basically, you go through your things, you go through your drills, you go through your developments, where your developments make you go through your ranks, and wherever where you develop at is where you rank. It's like karate. You don't become a black belt from a white belt. You must go through the different grades. You know, you must do you must do different things to reach the different grades, you know. Just like when you go to college or something, you got modules and everything. what gets you your degree at the end of the fucking term. So all of those stuff is like, that's how I become it really. I earned that title basically. It wasn't just given to me. I earned it. I could have always been a private. I could have always had a cadet, you know what I mean? Or something like that. No, I don't rap or nothing like that, so it's just a part of my movement where I worked up to. Yeah, man.
So then and then how long were you there, like with them and that? And what kind of things did you get up to? Like, what did you have to do?
No, it's not what I got up to really. Being a Black Panther is about serving the people.
Or was it just local, or did you like go around?
Yeah, I went around. I've been various places.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've travelled. You know what I mean? I've been out
They
there,
got
travelled.
the beret, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I got the beret, I got everything. I got my whole uniform, my patches, my badges. I got all sorts of stuff.
So I don't know. I don't really remember seeing them when I was growing up, but maybe I did. But I didn't really know what it was.
It depends. Some places wasn't really open at that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some people always like met down in South London and met in various different parts of where they felt they were more needed and more at hand. You know, so sometimes might not, like in areas where I live now, you might not really need anybody to really patrol the streets because there ain't no, the crime rate where I live is really low and everybody's kind of that working class, middle class, upper class, it's conservative type. This ain't a Labour area where I'm living at. So it's like that everybody's just about their works, you know? So like, yeah, man.
And then, so then you were with them for what, quite a few years?
Yeah, I was with them for I've been with them for quite a while now. I first was mainly in contact with the Black Panthers for like, beginning of year 2000. So when you look now, it's like 9 years. So I kind of
19.
19 years, innit? Look at that. So from a young, as I said, it was all a part of my upbringing and through my family and everything, where I had most of the links with the Black Panthers anyway. So it was like, it's been a part of my family basically.
And is there a lot of them about still now?
Yeah, there's a lot of them about, but a lot of them is not really exposed like that as openly. They're there, you know what I mean? Not everybody needs to wear a beret, by the way. Not everybody needs to wear military clothes. It's not that type of thing where you got to wear a specific uniform anyway. You know, so some people just wear normal clothes. You're just living your day and time, where some people like we wear leather jackets no more. You know, nobody don't really wear those type of fashion. So it's like everybody just adapts and just gets along with whatever they have to get along with within their community, or fighting for, you know when I'm saying fighting, I'm talking about rights and everything else. So yeah, bro.
And then, so you stuck it out with them, and then it led to some like activism and stuff like that.
Yeah, but
and then I'm just trying to get to the bit like, then you come and linked with gang, and then there all this Speaker's Corner stuff and that. But
okay.
How did it lead to all of that?
And basically, I've been active. I've been an activist for many years. I always took part in the many different activist rallies and stuff throughout London and everywhere. You know what I mean? And say coming for the last 10 years, I kind of been more working with the youth of the teenage level, like going working, spending my time working in venture playgrounds, doing voluntary youth work, being paid for it as well, going outings. You know what I mean? I was actually a boxing coach, actually teaching the youths boxing, been involved in many different organisations within my community, teaching the youths. You know what I mean? Just being around the youths within youth work and everything, speaking with them, you know, like mentoring and many different things I've done, what led me to, I'd always say recent, but last 2 years, I saw a group of brothers where I know a couple of them, and they were all up in Speaker's Corner, and I saw something on YouTube and they were called Gang. And they were, you know, really do well with Up in the Park, talking on different cultures, different subjects, different religions and everything. So what made me attracted to them was like, I knew some of them anyway. And what made it was just the vibe, the energy. I went up there, you know what I mean, they were holding the G circle. I stepped in the G circle, you know. I liked their ideology and everything, so we went out and did the G walks as the community went from Wood Green to Tottenham, from Tottenham to, then we done Hackney, we done Killington to Brixton, you know. Made a relationship with them and stuff, and I like how they were carrying on and stuff, and you know, I put my bit into it. Like, I kind of submerged what I did in what I do with what they do into one. So it's like, as it was guiding the new generation, many of the gang members is younger than myself, and you know, many like more than young for myself. Some of them are young, you know, and basically I kind of inspiring them to help inspire the younger youths, to keep a bridge with them, you know, keep regular links, talk with them, go on their chats and everything, go on their streams. Been up to Speaker's Corner a few times, but I'm more of an activist, so I'm always more down in South, working with one movement or one organisation or another. Many of them are very legitimate organisations with highly recommending for what the community can offer, you know, especially with the younger generations and stuff. So I do my works, even with the older generation. I'm involved in many different groups, organisations. I've been involved in many of the recent stop the knife and gun crimes, stop the serious knife crimes and all sorts of different stuff, put the knives down, all of that stuff, handing your knives. Many different organisations I've been linking up with, joining them in many different events what they've been holding, and you know, getting myself involved with much as I can to help to do my bit, basically.
See. So what's the next 5-10 years saying for Captain Rambo? You see the fight getting harder?
I dare the truth.
See the fight getting broader? You see it as a different fight? What's coming?
When we say that now, boy, basically things is just change. There is a change. There is a fight, or if you want to say a struggle, what's going on, you know. And regardless if it's religious, political, or gang warfare, or many, or even changing as individual, you fight. There is a fight, and within the next, as you say, boy, if I get to live that way, because get to live to next 10, 15 years, you know, hopefully I can still do what I'm doing, but I'm getting older, and I ain't gonna really be doing this. One day my fire will burn out. One day something will say, fuck it, I had enough, and that's the reality of it. But hopefully, why I'm not thinking that way, I'm not feeling that way, keep doing what I'm doing until that point, you know. Time is the master, you know, and all I'm just doing is watching the tick. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, big up Captain Rambo, man. I hope that flame there is just going to be burning for a long, long time to come, man.
Yeah, well, bro, all I'm trying to do is just do my bit, try to like keep myself motivated, keep myself constructive, keep myself consistent, you know, keep that consistency, keep that flame, keep that fire, keep that passion, keep that drive, keep that charisma, keep that character, keep that being, keep that moving, keep that fire blazing. You know, that's how it has to be. Wherever you want terminologies they are, yeah, what keeps that positive influence over myself, I want to continue doing it. And it's a thing where, you know, it's becoming nature, it's becoming like a lifestyle. It's like, you know, a lifestyle what I've chosen from a long time. It's more than, boy, I'll be honest with you, it's more than 25 years I've actually really been involved in what I've been doing. I could actually see youths born and you grow up, and then see youths become man, have children in the lifetime that I teach. There's many men out there who I taught personally, and they're doing very good out there. I've been on the path of knowledge for a long time. I met different people, men, women, you know what I mean, different people along the way through the development of each and everybody's self. So basically, you know, when you're saying next 15 years, hopefully I can still be who I am. Most important thing, I don't change who I am, because even you want to fight and do all good things for people, it can reverse on you. You start living for the people, not for yourself. And that's where a lot of things go wrong with people. The time to get ego that they're the most popular, but being the most popular in everything can be a big hindrance if you're not dealing with things properly, you know. So it's not, as I say, it's not the clout chasing, it's not the crowd pleasing, it's not trying to please the masses, it's trying to please the majority who would actually take on heed and try to change themselves. So, bro, what you say?
Big up, man, like Captain Rambo, man. Nice one for that, man. That's
Bless you,
Untold
man.
Stories, bruv. Captain Rambo in the house, man.
Big up, man.
And yeah, man, you even gave me the title for this one as well, wasn't it? It was Untold Stories from Rambo to Captain.
Bless up.
Big up, big
I
up.
know.
Big up, everyone. That was Untold Stories, episode 2. More to come. Peace.